So much to unpick here. I mean, the phrase that I think is kind of writ large is locking the stable door after the horse has bolted. Suddenly it's difficult to get a glass of water when you're visiting an inmate in Wandsworth prison. Well, what, today? I mean, it's a bit too late for that, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's a very embarrassing episode for the
Yes.
prison service, and particularly Wandsworth. Yeah, if it turns out to be true, and we don't know yet, but if Khalife was able to fashion some form of straps
Yeah.
from bed linen, this again will be another massive embarrassment.
I mean, it begs so many questions. So he, we believe, was on kitchen duty. That's why he was attired in the red checkered trousers and the kind of overall type top. And what possible reason would there be for bed linen being present in the kitchen? It's not like he worked in the laundry of the prison.
Well, sticking with the bed linen, if I may.
Yeah, let's stick with the bed linen.
If he's fashioned it from his own sheets, for example,
Right.
that he would have in his cell,
Yeah.
there is tamper-proof bed linen available now for prisoners,
Is
and
there?
quite rightly so,
Uh-huh.
because in the past years, many prisoners have fashioned nooses out of strips of their sheets for their bed, and they've taken their own lives.
Yes.
And of
I mean, the
course,
classic scenario is, knotting the sheets together and climbing out the window. That's one we're all used to from movies, isn't it? I don't know if that ever really
Absolutely.
happened in real life, but we certainly heard about that one.
Absolutely, and the escapes of the 60s and the 70s with literally ladders up against walls
Yeah.
or holes under fences.
Yeah.
It falls into that kind of, dare I say,
Exactly.
if it wasn't serious,
Slapstick.
laughable category.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And bearing in mind that now it's 2023, we live in the age of tamper-resistant bed linen, which obviously is available. There's probably a cost element to that. We'll hear about it at some point, I'm sure. And the fact that a prison has a duty of care
Yes.
to its prisoners, not only to keep them safe, but to maintain order and, of course, keep them under lock and key.
Yes. I mean, I was talking to somebody earlier who said when a food delivery truck drives out of a prison, there's a tremendous amount of kind of security procedure that goes on with every single vehicle leaving. Now, I'm going to enact it. You're going to tell me this isn't quite how it goes, but something like this, hello, yes, come in, Tiger 2, vehicle leaving. Yes, we have prisoner A here. We have prisoner B here. There we can see, actually on camera, we can see the vehicle leaving. We have prisoner B here. We have prisoner C here. Prisoner D is here. Yes, you may now leave. Kind of a thing. I mean, obviously that's my amateur version of it, but something of that ilk clicks in. There's a protocol. It's not just like vehicles just come in and out and prisoners mill about the place. It's not like that at all, is it? Or at least not meant to be.
Absolutely, and there's a head count
Yeah.
before the vehicle departs.
Yeah.
And then almost the final stage is that the vehicle goes into an airlock zone. And it is kind of that, really. It's a sort of lockdown zone where the final checks should be carried out before it is allowed to go, in supplement, of course, to the head count that's already happened,
Yes.
even when there's a head count. So there's going to be numerous failings discovered here, I'm sure,
Yes.
in the reports that we'll hear about in the not-too-distant future, I would imagine. There's an enormous amount of embarrassment for the governor of the prison and for supervisors, quite possibly. But, the prison service has suffered like policing in recent years in that it has lost an awful lot of experienced members of staff.
Yes.
The prison service were almost offered an inducement to leave because they had greater years service, so they were paid more money than somebody who's fresh out of training.
Yes.
And consequently, many, many prison officers went. And there is no substitute in so many public service areas. Policing, the NHS, the prison service. There is often no substitute for experience.
I knew you were going to say for experience. But I've interviewed in my career various prison guards, often now ex-prison guards, who say it's a very difficult, punishing, dangerous, very poorly paid job, and it's very hard to stick at it for decades. It's the kind of a job that once you've done it for a while, you just think, God, there must be something better in terms of quality of life than this job. So recruitment is a nightmare, isn't it? Retention is an absolute headache. And so what very often prisons end up with is a very young, as you quite rightly say, roster of inexperienced, very junior people doing this incredibly important, very serious job. And I'm sure they're doing their best.
And it is an incredibly difficult job.
Yes.
I went into many a prison when I was a cop to interview people. And quite frankly, it was a job that I wouldn't have wanted to have done. They look after and keep under lock and key the very worst of humanity. The very, very worst. People you wouldn't want to have dealings with. So they have my sympathy. And now, of course, we've heard in recent days the Prison Officers Association saying, typically to get a full pension, people coming into the job at the age of 18 will have to do that job for 50
Oh, my
years.
goodness me.
Well, surely that's unsustainable.
And Peter, just your take on Yvette Cooper's comments about, you know, what Daniel Khalife is accused of having done and what he was found to have done, you know, actual threat to national security while in the army, etc. and so forth, terrorist activity. He shouldn't have been in that prison anyway, shouldn't have been in Wandsworth.
All charges of which at the moment that they have not been proven. He's going to have to stand trial. And of course, the cornerstone of British justice, innocent until proven guilty.